you know, this is a sort of cliched thing to say, but like honestly, as I get older, I am less interested in labels because I think you become. I mean, it does seem like a cliche thing to say, and it can be quite an obnoxious thing to say. But I do think, like, I've been following politics for a long time.
Yes, I completely agree with Spanish Monster. Centrists are just righties with commitment issues. It's true. Okay. Apparently, everyone wants me to watch this J.J. McCullough indoctrination video. So I will watch it with an open mind and an open heart. We'll see. We'll see what we see, okay? I have no idea what to expect here. Maybe I should give a quick little background on these two figures, because it's quite an unusual pairing. It's strange. They're both Canadian, which I think is about the only thing that aligns them both, besides, you know, having varying degrees of impressive hair and facial hair. I'm not gonna disparage either of them for that. It's they're quite beautiful in their own ways. JJ McCullough is a conservative in Canada, and what he does is he writes articles for the Washington Post, and then he typically tries to make Canadians seem kind of absurd, and a lot of the things we do here seem absurd in order to appease American listeners who are like, silly Canadians with their communism. Look how that's failing, silly old communist Canadians. Whereas in Canada, we're like, we don't have anything even close. We actually have quite a powerful neoliberal government, and it's been in power for some time now with very strong neoliberal policies. And they get pushed up against by the further to the left party, the NDP, that are kind of like, well, why don't we just not let poor people die as much? And that's kind of the closest I can give to a summary. I've met JJ in person. I've done a collaboration with Jreg. He did a guest star in a video I did. So I have no idea ideologically what they're going to be able to do together, but this is called Trying to Radicalize JJ McCullough.
Now, before I begin this interview, I would just like to let everybody know in the audience, if you're watching, JJ is a centrist. If you want to stop watching right now, I would totally understand.
I'll be honest, he's not, but he's like a Canadian conservative is not a Republican. He is further to the left than any Republican. That is an honest statement. So perhaps his policies and views would be seen if we were to take, like, you know, the American paradigm as being more centrist. That I could agree with. But in terms of like Canadian policy or just in general, like European politics, he wouldn't be seen as a centrist. I mean, I think he veers closer to the PPC at times than he does to the Conservative Party.
JJ, why did you pick a path of neutrality?
Well, you know, I mean, I think of myself as being a sort of moderate conservative person, which I suppose can come off as sort of a form of centrism. But I think of myself as being kind of like a dispositionally conservative person, somebody who's like cautious and pragmatic and
Right.
Yes, but like, here's why I find JJ particularly insidious, is that he has really nice, fun, friendly, and he is just a friendly guy. I've met him in person, videos that often talk about things that not a lot of other YouTubers will talk about. He says a boot very strongly, which of course is probably endearing to a lot of you because you're like, oh, silly Canadian accent, I'm in. So he'll do his videos, he'll say a boot, and then he'll do there's got lots of little cute, like, you know, stuff in the background, and he uses Super Nintendo sound effects for his videos and all that. But a lot of it comes down to that kind of like, I just want to ask questions. And we really butted heads when he wanted to start opening up the abortion debate in Canada, something that doesn't really exist. But he was like, I just don't understand why we can't, in a civilized Canadian society, have a discussion about this kind of issue. I understand it's very politically highly charged, but it is something that we should talk about. And I don't think anyone, regardless if they are, you know, a conservative or a liberal in Canada, wants to enter this discussion. Conservatives, because they know it's not politically popular outside of the very right to far right Christian conservatives, and obviously liberals, because for the most part they're pretty pro-choice, but still, just the idea of introducing it, right? I just want to ask questions. I just want to throw that out there and legitimize this counter argument suddenly. Like suddenly the idea of something that is already seen as perhaps being restrictive or you know, going to be very endangering to women and trans men suddenly is something that we're going to talk about. We're going to bring it up. We're going to discuss it like it has legitimacy.
Yeah, you call yourself philosophically conservative.
Yeah, philosophically conservative, but I think more than that, like temperamentally conservative, which is you're sort of cautious of sort of extreme solutions, extreme ideologies, sort of like overly ambitious theory as your guiding principle in politics, as opposed to just a sense of, I don't know, wary skepticism and pragmatism and utilitarianism that are kind of traditions that I associate with people as I get older.
You know that Futurama thing? The neutral guys. Why would you choose to make that the guy you're most identified with in media?
I think as you get older, you realize that most people that offer more radical or sort of sweeping views of politics are pretty wrong.
Okay, this is good.
They sort of have, they put the theory before observed reality. They have a kind of grand theory of the way that things are supposed to be, and then they sort of try to awkwardly sort of shoehorn facts into the theory. And that when the real world turns out to be sort of more complex and nuanced than the theory assumes, they often get in various states of denial. They double down on their extremist theory, and as a result,
I love that he just put a green sheet right behind them for occasional strange.
You're a homosexual.
I have been told that. Yes.
What's that all about?
I don't know. It's just who I am, I suppose. Gay.
If anyone wants to stop watching now, I'd understand.
Being gay is not, I think, a political identity. There's gay conservatives, gay liberals, gay socialists, gay everything under the sun.
Gay Strasserites.
Yeah.
Gay fascists.
What's going on, JJ? You have your idea of truth that you can cling to. When the youngins come up, they'll have their own ideas of truth. They'll have their own realities inside that little head of theirs.
Will they?
Yes, they will. And they'll use that reality to overcome your liberal democracy reality.
Yeah.
You're the truth that you hold on to so dearly, your beloved truth and objective reality that'll be taken away from you when the youngins come.
Yeah, I don't think that ever happens. When in the 1960s, there was a great deal of sort of youth agitation and youth sort of radicalism, but a lot of them grew up to be relatively, they're the boomers of today, right? That's something that's always worth remembering, right? We sort of scorn the boomers, the generation that was born in the 40s, 50s, 60s as being this kind of embodiment of kind of a regressive, sclerotic kind of conservative status quo disposition. But these were the people that when they were young, they were all the radicals. They were all sort of anti-establishment.
This is a 7-minute bit. It would have been like 20 minutes if we didn't fast forward everything he says.
But the process of getting older and adopting adult responsibilities, having a family, owning property, having a 9-to-5 job, and all this kind of stuff, it has a sort of, if it not necessarily makes you conservative in a kind of right-wing sense, it makes you sort of dispositionally conservative and more inclined, I think, to realize the virtue of some of these institutions and perhaps not be quite so quick to blame them and want to tear them down.
The problem is you think that history is real as well. I mean,
Brian McCullough, like you ever really cared about Colin Powell. You can always complain about things in public and exercise actual freedom of speech and show some real courage. I did not care about Colin Powell. You've been misled if you thought that. No, I think he was a war criminal and should have been tried as such. It's unfortunate that he never went to jail.
you think that you can learn from the lessons of the past. This moment in time is so unique and special because I want to be unique and special, you see.
Exactly.
That the whole world must revolve around our generation. That's why I'm a Zoomer nationalist. I think all the Zoomers should separate and secede from the millennials with your avocado toasts.
What happens when,
And the
what
Gen
happens when the
Xers.
Zoomers get older?
We don't think about that. We have kind of a myopic perspective.
Are you afraid of the who's the ones behind the Zoomers?
Oh, Gen Alpha? Yeah, I'm fucking terrified of Gen Alpha. Are you kidding me?
Is that their actual name? I didn't know that until now. Gen Alpha. That has to be made up. He made that up on the spot. I don't believe that.
They're alphas.
I think it's important that we look at when you look at the data.
It's got to be Gen Sigma. Come on.
You find that
It's real? It's Gen Alpha? Holy shit. Who named that one? So that means every single other generation is beta by definition. We're all fucking betas. Every one of us. We all just got betafied. Even you Gen Zs. Because no one younger than Gen Z is watching this. All you Zoomers, you're betas. We all are. Wow. The world's been united by another generation. So are they also setting this up for some weird, strange battle? Is it going to be Gen Alpha versus everyone else?
a lot of these sort of cliches.
I would like to show everybody these Funko Pops that JJ collects.
Okay, hold on. Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha, or Gen Alpha for short, is a demographic cohort succeeding Generation Z. Researchers and popular media use the early 2010s as starting birth rates and mid-2020s as ending birth years. Named after the first Greek letter in the Greek alphabet, Generation Alpha is the first to be born entirely into the 21st century. Most members of Generation Alpha are children of millennials. Wow. Gen Alpha. Does that mean that every single generation afterwards is now going to be Gen Beta, and then Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta? Ugh. All right.
This is the generation of the modern man. Look at this Wario and his little siren head doll over there. And his
I'll be honest, of all the things I shit on JJ McCullough for, his background is not one of them. I think his background is absolutely adorable.
Mario Pikachu.
It's a lot of
Where is your culture, Western man? Huh? So, explain that, huh? Where's your culture?
You know, a lot of the stuff that's on my shelf is, it's not frivolous toys. Those are like things that I've collected on my travels around the world. A lot of them are, you know, souvenirs and folk art and handicrafts and things. It's
Also true, Cervantes.
Capitalism at its finest. And also the lack of culture in the West. That's an attack from the left and the right simultaneously. Back in the imagined historical past of my people being Zoomers, we didn't have knickknacks and paddywhacks. We didn't have this globalism. All we had was our tribes, I assume. We would commune with the elements by day and hunt at night. We would eat the flesh of our elk and our smaller elk. JJ, why do you identify yourself with the middle class, which is by far the worst class?
Why is it the worst class?
It's because it's in the middle.
Is that so? So the upper class and the lower class are superior to the middle class? Just because
I think the upper class and the lower class, they've got some real sexual tension between them. And the middle class is kind of cock blocking them.
squeeze the middle class. Well, I mean, that's what a lot of these sort of politicians would argue is happening right now, is that, you know, you've kind of, well, it's sort of like, I think that the sort of standard right-wing sort of critique you sometimes hear is that the, you know, there's kind of an upper-lower alliance, right? Like there's an elite class that will always be...
They have no idea what they're talking about. Well, here, I'll posit this, albino cave woman. JJ kind of does. For all my, like, ribbing into him, he is quite educated on a handful of the topics he talks about. He can be dramatically wrong. Either he's doing it with purpose or he's doing it out of willful ignorance. Like his takes on land back, as well as the residential school system and the discovery of unmarked graves were very similar to Lauren Southern's. It was like as disgusting as you can possibly get. Like I even told him that on Twitter. I was like, this is disgusting, even for you. Whereas Jreg is just like a hyper satirist. Like I have, like, people often say Jreg's on the left. I believe that as well. Although there's no way of ever knowing. He could be on the left, the right, the center. He could be off the political map. There's no. I think the only true guiding star for Jreg is absolute irony, absolute and complete irony. And I mean, it's kind of indicative of Zoomer humor in general. Like if you look at a lot of the popular Zoomer humors, it's usually about rejecting things that are mainstream, absurdity, like, you know, everything from dramatically expanding the sound of the things people say in a clip to all of a sudden distort it so it sounds terrible, like, and that's the punchline itself, or things that seem like to me utterly absurd and weird, and to me it's hilarious. Like, what was it, me and the boys getting beans at 1 a.m. or whatever that thing is. I found that was funny because it's just weird. I'm like, this is just strange as fuck, but I'm not going to pretend that I understand the purpose or the theory behind creating it, you know. That's Zoomer humor for you.
Be fine because, you know, the system.
I'm just an old man laughing from the sidelines.
The lower class is, you know, pampered or whatever. That we have a sort of welfare state that is very attentive to their
at 3 a.m.
Yeah. But, you know, the middle class has sort of been lost in the shuffle, and sort of who's looking out for the middle class.
No,
I agree with the analysis of the middle class being slowly eroded from both ends. Yeah. I think the same thing is happening with centrism. I think centrists have less and less ground to stand on. You've given me a lot to think about, JJ.
I hope so.
You know, I came into this interview.
Oh, I think it is comedic genius. I thought that meme was hilarious.
I think maybe...
For some reason, there's some Zoomer humor that really speaks to me, because I'm like, that's just fucking absurd. It doesn't make any sense, and it's a weird picture to have behind it, and I laugh.
You've de-radicalized me.
Well, that's what I like to hear. That's what I'm here for.
I mean, after all of this, would you still say, you know, you feel like you're a centrist?
You know, this is a sort of cliched thing to say, but, like, honestly, as I get older, I am less interested in labels, because I think you become... I mean, it does seem like a cliche thing to say, and it can be quite an obnoxious thing to say. But I do think, like, I've been following politics for a long time.
Yes, I completely agree with Spanish Monster. Centrists are just righties with commitment issues. It's true.
And as I get older...
They're basically righties who want to be able to get out of the occasional thing in which, like, their views are utterly abhorrent, and then they can occasionally say when, like, the vast swath of right-wingers are like, yeah, blah, 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 and then, like, they can be like, oh, I don't agree with that one. No, because I'm a centrist. I listen to both sides, and then I take the most educated response. And so in this case, that's bad. So they're bad that one time. I don't really agree with anything the left proposes, but this one time I do disagree with the right on this issue.
I realize that a lot of politics is not really very coherent in terms of
When I was your age, we did
labels. You know, most people's political beliefs are not an extension of a philosophy, whether it's a philosophy of like, you know, the left or a philosophy of the right. It's just kind of an extension of your personality, your kind of base disposition. And, you know, I think, and, you know, some people might disagree with me on this, but I do think that I'm a relatively sort of pragmatic, moderate kind of... JJ McCullough is dead! I am JJ McCullough now!
Well, that is how it rules.
Hello.
Like, it's Highlander rules. So yeah, no, that checks out. That totally checks out. Do you enjoy the Serfs, but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free. Just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we will build a ladder to heaven to deliver you the daily news. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are your most humble of clownish jesters. To our lords, Trevor R. and Alexander Thaler, you have our undying fealty. To our knights of the round table, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariana McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Tom Groh, Val 9000, Jenna Tal, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Riley and Anna, Omni, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Chronic to Hemphog, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We shall meet you in the tavern, and we raise a drink, and we salute you.